So first of all, thanks to Gautam and Rahul for asking me to give these lectures. So, okay, so I'll speak about some theories of biological evolution. Okay, so I'll try to go slow, but I have a tendency to speak fast and very loudly when I get super excited. So if you guys don't interrupt me, don't ask questions, this is going to be just me talking. That's not very nice, okay? So we don't want a monologue here. So we would like a dialogue or something like that, right? Okay, so if you have a question, just raise your hand and ask. Don't think it's a dumb question or something. I ask dumb questions all that time. And I think that's true for many of us who are so-called professors and all that stuff. So you should not feel shy or feel self-conscious or something. You are here to learn. So take something back home. Okay? So don't feel shy. If you have a question, ask. And when I have a question, I expect answers from you. Alright? Okay? Okay. So I'll start. So I said I'll speak about biological evolution. So what is evolution? So all of you have read something a little bit in school, college, or something about it, right? So could you say, what do you understand by evolution? So there is something, no? They say that God created Earth or something, and humans, everybody is there, right? That's one theory or something, right? So that's not evolution. So what do you think evolution is? Anybody has read anything about it ever? In school we have all, no? So tell me. Little loudly so that you all can hear you.
Process of accumulating changes
Mm-hmm. In?
in the genotype of an organism
Mm-hmm.
accumulate they can basically contribute to changes in the phenotype and thereby add new species or
Okay, so there could be new species that can come, there could be some changes, so that's evolution, something like that. Anybody else wants to contribute to this discussion?
General change of state with respect to some parameters.
But like, let's say biological evolution, that's why I said the word biological evolution. Evolution generally means change with time, right? That's a time evolution. So you all do some quantum mechanics or something, classical mechanics, Newton's laws, there's some change with time. But this is biological evolution. Anybody from the back or something? What is evolution? So how did life start on Earth? Anybody has some idea? How did it start? We put all humans on the Earth, ho gaya. No, not like that, right? So how was it? Tell me something, whatever it is, doesn't matter, just say. Amino acids. First came amino acids.
They were formed in some way, I don't know.
Huh.
In some that microorganism life.
Hmm.
I don't even know the definition of life.
Hmm.
It was created. Then after that, step by step evolution to evolution, it's happened.
Okay, so something like this, we at least understand this much. It's not like all the humans or something like that were put in on Earth and then things have been going on like that ever since. Something simple started and then it became complex over time, right? Things changed over time and then we see the way we see things, the diversity we see on the Earth has come about always over this 4 billion years, right? So that's sort of roughly the meaning of evolution. Okay, so I want to start not from 4 billion years, but from 1859. So this is my standard slide because people forget. What's so special about this number 1859? Is it a name of a pub? No. Huh? Sorry? Loudly, I can't hear. Darwin's something, yeah. It's Darwin's something, which is this is the year in which Darwin published his famous book on the origin of species by natural selection. So okay, so on evolution, which started to tell us about theorizing how evolution might work based on some observations. So he, as you all know, he went to Galapagos Islands and he took observations, etc. And he started to theorize, or I like to think theory as ideas, set of ideas about how things might be working, why the finches have this kind of beak, etc. Right? So he sort of thought long and hard and he came up with this theory of evolution, which has these three keywords. So first is that in a population there is variation. Do we have variation in this population? Yes or no? Yes. Louder, guys. I can't hear. Okay? So we have variation. I mean, that's obvious, right? There's variation in the population. And importantly, this variation, at least in this here in this theory, is heritable. Okay? So the idea is that in a population there are variants, and they pass on this variation from one offspring, from parent to the offspring. And if this variant is good in a particular environment, it gets selected. Okay, what is meant by selected? So this book has some long name, no? On the Origin of Species by Natural Selection. So what is the selection? What is selection? What is the colloquial meaning of selection? It's not a technical term I'm asking. Huh? So I select her because she's very good in maths, right? So in that particular environment, which requires a lot of mathematical machinery, she will be selected. Okay? So in that sense. So in that particular environment, if that organism has the right things, then it might have a higher survival probability, it might live longer to the reproductive age, it might have more offspring, etc. Okay, so in that sense, it's selected. So if you want to just know this is how I think, this is the three words that are most important in Darwin's book. That there is variation, and these are heritable variation, and these variants may be selected if they are good. Okay, that's the key point here. Any questions? Is this okay? Okay, fine. Okay, so this was the sort of thing that he had proposed. But then there was this question about what is the mechanism of heredity? How is this heredity? How is it being passed on? So this we have some understanding. We saw variation in this population, and we are saying something about selection, like I gave you example. But what is this heredity? We are saying it's passed on. What is this heredity? So it is a sort of interesting story in which one says that Darwin said that I need variation for natural selection to occur. If all of us were identical, what is there to select, right? So I said, you all have some same mathematical abilities and she is very good. So she will be selected. She is a variant, she is a mutant, right? Okay, so but if all are same, there's nothing to select. All are same, right? So we need variation for the evolution to proceed, right? So then Darwin has had a suggestion that each generation, a variation will be produced from parent to offspring. In each generation, but that's just too much variation, right? In each generation, if you produce a variant. So therefore, he came up with what is called a blending inheritance hypothesis. So the idea here is that mom has this height, dad has this height. So the offspring is not exactly this height or this height, it's some blend, it's sort of intermediate height. Okay, that's a blend, like coffee blends or something that you hear about. So it's sort of a fluid, notion of inheritance here. Okay, and therefore there is a variation when you go from parent to offspring. So the variation is produced, but it's not too much because there will be too much variation otherwise. So he wanted to have variation, but not too much of it. So that's why he proposed this thing called blending inheritance. Okay, and now, however, it's sort of strange because what happened was that people said, everybody agreed that yes, inheritance has this character of blending. It sort of blends, right? But people objected to say that if I buy that inheritance is blending sort, natural selection is the one which is driving evolution. So there is this argument which goes something like this. It says that suppose I have an island in which a very good mutant is produced, okay, and then this mutant will mate with other ones which are on that island. So but because inheritance is blending, the offspring would have an intermediate height or something, like say height. So there's a very tall person who for some reasons in that environment is very good, but then others are normal height, but the offspring will have an intermediate height. So what happened? Natural selection is supposed to select the best, right? That's an understanding that you're good, So therefore everybody should become tall. It should perpetuate this good variety. But that's not what happened. You're getting intermediate heights. So the argument is, so this is this guy, I forgot, 1867. So this is a famous argument by Jenkins. So he says, blending inheritance is okay, but natural selection is not. So what do you think? We have come like more than 100, 150 years. What do you think is correct? Is natural selection good? Is that how evolution proceeds? I just give you an argument, right? I said that, it's a good mutant, very good mutant. So therefore everybody, if you are tall in that environment, you should be selected, right? But blending inheritance says that the offspring would have intermediate height. So you have lost that good guy. So what's going on?
If the offspring has an intermediate height,
Hmm.
and that offspring marries another one with less height than that,
Hmm.
so the height will generation by generation go slow,
Yes,
and
that's right.
sooner or later become dwarfs.
Yeah, but the thing was that in that environment, being tall is a good thing. So you have lost that good mutant. You are supposed to have been selected, right? So in retrospect, it looks like a funny argument because what happened is that what is wrong is not natural selection. Blending inheritance hypothesis was incorrect. The genetic material, the heredity is not, it's not a blend, it's not a fluid, it's not a two pots of paint, white paint and the blue paint, and you sort of mix it up and get a light blue flower. It's not like that. Inheritance is particulate in nature. So it's like two blocks, this one and this one. Not mixing the two water in the water in the two bottles, but like these two solid objects. Inheritance works like that. So let me explain what I mean. Okay, so this came about. Anybody knows? How did we know that inheritance is particulate? Who is the one big name that you think of after Darwin when you hear about evolution? Huh? Mendel. Yeah. So there was this guy, monk. So he did these experiments. Okay? And this is something you have all read in school. What were the experiments? Anybody wants to tell me a little bit? All of you have done this much biology, right? Till 10th standard or something. Hannah, I want to hear from others also. I know you know it, but somebody else. Somebody who knows but not saying it. You want to tell me? He was in monastery, yes. But what was the experiment? He was making a lot of beer and stuff. Yeah, yeah. So there were some crossing experiments of the pea plant. But how did that establish that the inheritance is particulate? It's like a particle, solid thing, not a blend.
You saw different characteristics of the plant, like flower, leaf size, those.
Yeah, so that's a set of experiments he did. Looking at the flowers, the length or color, etc., etc. So let me just go through it because some of you seem to have forgotten it. And it's very nice. I like it very much because it's really a simple quantitative model. So I'm coming to already the words that Mukund has introduced to you. So there's theory of evolution, and this is a model that Mendel gave. And I think it's probably the first one. But let's see, let me just go through it. So the idea here was, suppose you take these two kind of pea plants, one of them comes only white flowers and the other set gives only purple flowers. So there is purple flower population and there's only white flower population. So this is your, initially you have made this what is called pure lines. Okay. So he crossed these two, W and 2P, the crossing, and he got light purple flowers? If blending inheritance is true, what kind of flowers I should get? Huh? Light purple, but no, they were all purple. 2 I'm saying is called filial one or first generation, so F1 generation, so I'm just calling it P2, meaning purple flowers. So he got purple flowers, they're not light purple flowers. Okay? Then he crossed P2 with P2. And guess what he got? He got both white flowers and purple flowers in a ratio 1:3. So this is an experiment. This is an observation, right? Okay. So now what do we do with that? So we saw, okay, it's not light purple flowers, so it's not blending, it's not some paint pots mixing. So how do I understand that? So this is the quantitative part. So that's what we want to try to do. We want to do things quantitatively. We just don't want to say qualitatively. Yeah, it's not this color or that color. It's more or less. White flowers are more than purple flowers. It's 1:3. So we would like to understand that number. Okay. So I think this Mendel's work is so important and nice is because he came up with this model, assuming that inheritance is not blending, but it's particle-like. So I'll explain the model to you. So I'll just tell you one thing. Actually, Darwin also did the very same experiments. He got the very same numbers. He also worked with pea plants. He got again 1:3. But he did not come up with a model to understand those numbers. He kept thinking of blending inheritance and some natural selection, this, that, hoo-ha. But he did not come with a model. So what I want to emphasize is, if you're a biologist, talk to theorists. They could, this guy did experiments also. But it's good to do modeling. Models have limitations and all, but it's a good thing because Darwin did the same experiments, but he went a wrong track because he did not try to understand the meaning of this ratio 1:3. So what was Mendel's model? So he said, let me denote these white flowers by something, I don't know, nobody knows genes at that time, right? Something called A1. It's something underneath. For the mom, I'll denote by A1, and this is dad's contribution to give a white flower. For the purple flower, similarly, A2. Okay? So therefore, that's what these pure lines are. So let me maybe write with a different color. Okay, I did ulta. So what do you think? When we do this crossing, purple and white, what do we get? Sorry? A1? A1, A2. So what is the meaning of crossing here? So I have to give you a rule for crossing, right? So what is this rule? So crossing means break these parts, these two separated, and mix it up. So break it and mix. Would all of them be A1, A2? Yes? Is it clear? All of them will be A1, A2 type? Okay. So this is also A1, A2. Purple is also A1, A2. Right? Now, yeah? No, it's just a model. It's just yeah, but it's a simplicity. It's simple. That's all. Right? This is just like 1865. We don't know anything about what's the underlying thing, so it's a simple thing to start with. Right? No, because it's dad and mom. So A1 is that this guy has A1 factor from mom and A1 factor from dad. That's all. So any idea? P2 cross P2. I want you to work it out. You all have pen and paper. Tell me P2 cross P2 would be what? I just told you the rule of what is meant by crossing. So, please tell me. Don't have pen paper? Do it. If not clear what I'm saying, ask me. Feel free to chat with your neighbor. Discussion is fine, but please come with some answer. What happened? Finished? What did you get? Yeah. So what are the combinations we got? Yeah. Yeah, so A1, A2 crossed with A1, A2 will give me A1, A1. Then what else? A1, A2. A2, A1, which is over here, and A2, A2. But A1, A1 is what? Is a white flowers and rest is all purple. Right? So, this is a very simple model, but it was very important to establish a very fundamental fact about how inheritance works. Okay? So, you got this quantitatively explained that why is this ratio 1:3? By starting with this assumption, by questioning this assumption that things are not like paints in a pot. These are like solid objects and they have that kind of mixing rule. Is this clear to everyone? Yeah?
What does this first A1 and second A1 means?
Okay, this was the mom and dad. So the mom's material I'm denoting by A1 and slash dad's material. Is this okay with everyone?
A1, A2 will be equivalent to SU1.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately, Mendel's work was lost because I think he was writing in German in a little bit obscure place and all. And Darwin, as I said already, did experiments. He got the same ratio, but he did not take the next step of modeling. And therefore, things was, there was not enough progress. And finally, in 1900 only, Mendel's work was rediscovered by Hugo de Vries and some other people, and then we are back on track and understanding evolution properly. So that's really the beginning of this area of the theory of evolution. Okay, so I will not go through the whole history. So I'll just fast forward and say what I want to do in these lectures. Is this okay? This is very basic stuff that you have read in school. Is this okay? Very elementary. Okay. Okay. Okay, so why do we want to understand evolution? Why spend so much effort and time, and why are you sitting in these lectures, right? Why care? Why do you think we should care about knowing evolution? You can walk out of this room, right? Why? Because madam ne kaha tha. No, I'm sure not, right? So why? Why study evolution? Do you want to tell me? Come on, guys, I want to hear. Otherwise, I'll be just blah, 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 blah. It's not nice. Yeah, you looked away. Yeah, I was asking you. Yeah, why study evolution? Yeah, curiosity is one thing. Yeah, so that is one important thing, right? So why things are the way they are, right? And we have a brain and we think and we want to know. It's just some phenomena in nature, right? So that's one thing, certainly. So curiosity, yes. What else? But people will not give funds. They will say, "Ha, self curious hai." Anybody else? Any other idea? Huh? Huh, but why? Why should you care about how some frog is going to evolve? Who cares? So say something more. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. So we care about species. Diversity is good. Okay, diversity. It's good to have a diversity in all sorts of things, and we want to know something about extinction. Some species might go extinct, and therefore they're larger. So it's not just one species going extinct. It affects other things related to it. So it's important to know. What else? Something that you encounter in daily life. Everyday life. The food we eat, the medicines we have to take. Something.
Testing the drugs.
Uh,
Testing drugs.
testing drugs. But evolution of what? Who is evolving there? Who?
The link between the human genes and other.
Okay. No, but what's the evolution in that? Who is evolving? So I wanted, you have to get this flu medicine every few years, like 10 years or something. You have to develop these vaccines. Do you know why? Huh? That will evolve, right? So this doctor says that's antibiotic for 5 days. So you say, now I'm feeling fine. I'll stop in 3 days. Is that a good idea? That's not a good idea, right? Because these bacteria against whom you're taking the antibiotic, some resistant ones will stay and they'll attack you again, right? So you should always finish so they're going to evolve. So you should always finish your antibiotic dosage, and you should not simply, randomly take it, because then again resistance decreases. Okay, so disease, crops, we use that, right, for breeding new resistant species. We care about who else is there besides us humans, and we are curious. So all these are reasons, and probably many more, to understand evolution. Okay, so I'll give you some basic questions and that I find interesting, and I think many other people also, but you can have your own list. So one of the things that I would like you to do in tutorial we'll have on Wednesday is come up with one reason why you think, you might not want to study evolution, but why do you think it's worth the trouble to study evolution. So this is an exercise for tutorial. I'll ask all of you, why study evolution? Come up with one reason. Okay? So I'll give you my list of some questions that as a researcher I find very fascinating and challenging. Okay? So these are questions which people have bothered about for a very long time. So one question is about what's the mode of evolution? So does evolution happen in jumps? That means if I were to measure fitness as a function of time, does it look like this? Or does it look like this? Like this? Or could it go like this? Right? So how does a fitness of a population under some assumptions, etc., change as a function of time? More broadly, is it a punctuated evolution in steps, bursts, or is it something continuous? Should fitness always increase, or can it decrease in between? And this is a big fight, in the sense of argument, academic argument. In the 1920s, 30s, there were sort of two camps. There was one important person in this business, actually three, let me give you their names. So these are called Fisher. Anybody has heard of Ronald Fisher? Yes? And this guy called Sewell Wright. Okay, Fisher was working in UK, in England. Wright was working in America. And then there was one more person, Haldane. So these are called Trinity of population genetics. I'll tell you what population genetics is. But it's the three names which you'll hear quite often. Okay, so Fisher felt that the fitness should increase just monotonically. Okay, Wright on the other side of the Atlantic, he felt the other way around. He said, no, the population can also decrease and then increase. So why is that, and what are the arguments and all? I hope at some point we'll be able to understand that. Okay, so that's what still, it is not fully understood. So this is one thing, question about mode of evolution. Tempo of evolution. So what do you think? Evolution is a fast process Slow process, of course, relative to something, but what's your intuition like? Is evolution a fast process? Does it happen fast, slow? Could you say? Huh? Right now let's just take colloquial meaning. Fitness is like you're fit. I'll say that more clearly later on. Okay, right now we'll just saying verbal things. So just take a simple definition. Yeah, could you say? Evolution occurs fast or slow? Is it slow process or fast process? What's your intuition? Yeah? Could you say? No, I want to hear from her. Slow process, right? Can you give me an example? Why did you say slow? Yeah, so something like million years, chimpanzees, humans. We always think of, everybody thinks of that. Whenever I ask this question, everybody says chimpanzees. But you know, yeah, it depends on the species and other things. So what he is saying is right. But there are factors which we have to take into account. So that's one question.
We have one common ancestor.
Sorry?
We have, all of us have one common ancestor. So,
Okay. So typically we think of evolution as slow process. Typical numbers we think of is this evolutionary time scales of the order of millions. Right? But you know, I just said to you that antibiotics, resistance to that doesn't take long, this doesn't take million of years. Right? That's a very fast process. So depending upon some of these species, but there are big species like Galapagos finches. They evolved in just there. So there's an experiment. I hope if I have some time, I'll tell you about it. So there are these guys, Peter Grant and Rosemary Grant. So they have been documenting. So they have been to this Galapagos Islands and they have been documenting the beak size, the weight, the feather, this hajar things of the finches. Okay, and then they documented the following. Once there was a drought. Once there was a drought and they saw that the beak size changed in just 1 year. So there are examples of rapid adaptation as well as of course the slow ones that you said. So this was not realized for a long time. So Darwin's theory was that it's a slow process, so we can't really see it. And there was this argument of him with Lord Kelvin, who was also working in UK at that time, in England. So he said, what do you mean it's slow? Earth has a finite time. If I see all this diversity today, it must have a finite speed. But what is this speed? How much it is? So that's something again, a question that people have been asking for more than 150 years. And now we are beginning to sort of understand it. So it's a slow process, some cases of course, but it can also be very fast process. Okay? So I hope to tell you something about speed of adaptation, at what speed it occurs in some simple models. So we'll see that when we come to it. Okay? So this is one set of questions. Then another set of questions concerns what is called evolution of genetic systems. So if I give you some properties of the population, that it's a microbe, it ate this much, excreted this much, hoo-ha, okay? And something about genetic details, that it has this DNA of this size, this is a mutation rate, this is all these details if I give you, then you can work out the consequences of that, right? But here, for this set of questions, one is asking, why this mutation rate? Why is this population asexual? Asexual meaning it just replicates, it doesn't mix with other, it doesn't have sex and recombination. Okay, so why is, excuse me, why multicellularity? Why sexual reproduction? So why are things the way they are? So that kind of questions are asked within this category. So that's something again interests me, but I probably won't have time to talk about this. Okay, so there's a bunch of questions and you should come up with your own. Okay. So these are some of the major questions and there are some approaches. So I'll try to do the following things. Okay, let me first write it. So one approach is called population genetics. So what does it say? It says that if I give you some properties, like I said, of a population, etc., how is it going to evolve forward in time? Okay, so I'll spend some time on population genetics. There's a related approach which is called coalescent theory. It's also asking a similar kind of question, that given some properties, but it's a retrospective approach. So here one is asking, I have given you some sample of human DNA, let's say. Can you tell me, why is the genetic structure, why is the structure of the population at the genetic level the way it is? So I'm not giving you all that happened before, but I'm giving you only today's sample. Of course, you can do it using fossils, but there are lots of gaps in the fossil. But if I give you just 10 samples of human DNA, can you tell me why are these mutations there? Why is there so much diversity? Or what is the properties of this? Can you tell me, using today's sample only, what happened in the past? So this is about forward in time. This is also of the same flavor in the sense it's also population genetics, but retrospective, backward in time. So this is forward evolution, and this is backward in time. Okay? But both of them are asking questions at the genetic level. There is yet another theory which is called quantitative genetics. So that says that I don't know much about what's happening at a genetic level. All I'm interested in is asking why is the distribution of height in this room is what it is. So things like height, color, the eye color, these are called phenotypes. So unlike those two, quantitative genetics deals directly with the phenotypes. Without asking what's happening at the genetic level, without knowing much about what's happening at the genetic level. Okay, so these are the three sort of strands. They are of course connected in some ways, and I hope to give a flavor to you of each of them as we go. Okay, so is this okay? Okay, so here's the plan. So what I'll do is, I want to spend today something about coalescent theory, then I want to do in the second lecture population genetics, and then I'll try to sort of mix up these things about quantitative genetics and the relation of these two in lecture 4 and 5. There will be tutorial on third and 6th is a tutorial, right? So I'll keep giving you exercises as we go along, which means you should start thinking about it, not like on the tutorial day. So start thinking about it so that you have something to say on the tutorial day. So what we will do is, I can ask any of you to come to the board and explain whatever question I asked you. So come prepared, please. Take the tutorials very seriously. Is it clear? Okay, so I'll give you exercises and you can have to come on the board and do it. I'll just choose anybody randomly. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah.
So you just said that the evolution is slow, maybe also fast.
Yeah.
So does it exactly depend on species, or the same species can sometimes evolve quickly?
Yeah.
For example, if we consider humans,
Mm.
so in the digital era, so how we adapted ourselves with this mobile or technology, that took us very short time, almost 20 to 30 years. But similarly, to grow us this thumb, it took us almost a year.
So I'll just tell you a brief answer here is, because you might understand it at this stages, it depends upon the selection pressure. If selection pressures are high, you go fast, otherwise you go slow. Okay? Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, so I will be starting to do a little bit of math and little bit of modeling, and if any questions arise, you have to raise your hand and ask. Okay? Okay, so these are the sort of three things we will do: population genetics, coalescent theory, and quantitative genetics. So I want to give a small flavor of each of them so that you sort of know what is this big umbrella, what are the things under this big umbrella. Okay. So just like in physics, we have some bunch of fundamental forces, right? Who are the physics people here? What are the fundamental forces in physics?
Gravity, electricity, and magnetism. Okay, gravity and magnetism.
Okay, something. Doesn't matter. Okay, because not everybody is a physicist. Okay, so fine. There's some bunch of forces, and we say that okay, how things evolve or how things change or how system works under those forces. So here also, in this business, population genetics business, there are some sort of forces which have been identified over the course of 100 years or so. Okay, so I'll take sort of a physicist approach, but it's a standard approach. It's not something peculiar to me because I'm a physicist. It's a standard approach in which you take these forces and you turn off some, turn on some, and then try to understand how things work. Okay, so what are these forces under which a population evolves? So one is called, yeah, why don't you tell me? What are the things which would drive evolution? What are the things that come to your mind? The back? Huh? Yeah. Yeah, search for food, okay. There's something to do with evolution, no? Some words that come all the time. Huh? Reproduction, but that's not evolution. Huh? Environmental change, but that's what will, but that's not happening in the, so what I'm asking is what will change the genetic structure? It will drive it, as a response to that, genetic structure would change. But what are the forces at the genetic level? Huh? Adaptation is a process, it's the outcome. Mutation. Mutation is one, very good. So mutation everybody understands? Mutation is just a change. So if I have a ATCG, something, something, okay, T becomes A or C or something, something like that, a change is a mutation. It's just the same colloquial word. Just keep this in mind. There's not too many technical words here to remember or mug up. Okay, what else? Huh? Amino acids, but why would that change the genetic structure? That's an entity. How would change? So mutation we understand, right? If I have ATCG or something and I change C to T, that changes the genetic structure. So I can change the structure of amino acids, but what's the process which will change it? Huh? Selection, yeah, that's the thing always we talk about, right? Natural selection. Very good. What else? End of the story or anything more? She knows it because she is working on it. So I will not listen to her answers. I want to hear from others. Anything else? So there is this factor which somehow is not well known, but evolution is a stochastic process. Okay? So there is a stochasticity in the evolutionary dynamics, and that has a name in this literature. Don't worry too much about these names. If you can remember, good, otherwise you just remember it's a stochasticity. It's called random genetic drift. Okay? And lastly, there's a sort of broad category of things which is called population structure. So it's not a force as such, but it's something defines the things depend on it. The answers depend on it. So you could have a population which could be age structured. So in which you say, oh, juveniles do this, adults do this, that sort of thing. Or whether the population is asexual, sexual, is it diploid, ploid. So those kind of biological details, etc. you tend to put in this. Things like age, ploidy, etc., etc. Okay. So I think what I will try to do is to take very simple population structures, but I would like to focus on these three things. Okay. And I'll start with a general model. Okay. And I'll spend a considerable time on analyzing just that model. Okay. Yeah.
When you mentioned that antigen introduces stochasticity, isn't natural selection dependent on the environment in which an organism lives in and so on? So the environment itself, can it not be considered a stochastic agent?
So we do put the information about the environment in this bit, right? But how natural selection acts is coded by this drift. Why don't I explain the model and then you can ask me again. Okay? So natural selection has a particular meaning. So I'll explain that. Okay. So I'll talk to you about a specific model, and this is going to sort of form the basis of what I'll speak in the coming lectures. So please understand it. And exercise number 2. I understand that all of you have laptops or computers, access to computers, right? All of you know how to code? Some basic coding? Anybody else? Anybody who doesn't know how to write computer programs? Everybody knows? Oh, wonderful. Okay, so I'll explain this process to you, and on Wednesday I'll ask any questions and I want you to run your program and give me the answer. Okay? So this is called the Wright-Fisher process. So Wright and Fisher, I already mentioned the two guys. So it's a model. So I forget, when was it? Okay, I don't have it. Okay. So the idea is this. So like I said, for the Mendel's model, we're not going to say, oh, you are so different from me and all that. I'm going to clump everybody as white and purple, A1 and A2. Okay, so we are going to do something really simple model, but you will see this really simple is also not that simple. So later on we'll sort of iterate our knowledge, later on we'll see, but we'll start with this really simple model. Okay, so let's just go through it. So I'm going to think of only two types, and I'm going to denote these two types by 0 and 1. So I have a population of n particles so each particle can be either 0 or 1. Okay, a circle, a triangle, red or blue, whatever you like. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what is meant by fitness. So fitness of the 0, let's call it F0, and the fitness of the 1 is denoted by F1. Only thing at this stage, F0 and F1 are just non-negative numbers. The meaning of these numbers, F0, F1, is that it's the average number of offspring produced. Okay, I went too much ahead. Let me just come back to the meaning. Okay. Okay, so let me just keep this much. I'll explain. Okay. So I have this population. Okay. So let me give you an example. N equal to 6, let's say. So I have 0, 0, 1. So this is my population. I started with 4 zeros and 2 ones. Okay, this is my starting point. Now, I'm not writing equations at this stage. So Mukund asked you, do you always have to write equations? So this is one way of doing things, which I'm not going to write equations. Finally, I will. Okay, but this is, I'll give you a bunch of rules, and you have to evolve the system, which you can put in the computer. Okay, so this is the rule. So at t equal to 0, you have this population, and it changes in time in the following way. I want to keep 6 individuals at each point in time. Why? Because I want to think of it as a carrying capacity of the population. So think of it as a petri dish which has food for just that much individuals, that much, it can sustain only 1,000,000 bacteria. So now if it becomes more than that, most of them have to die, many of them have to die then. So it can sustain only some average number, like 1,000,000 only. So therefore, I'm just saying, I'm putting a hard bound, saying hard constraint that exactly 6 of them remain. It's a model, and as we already discussed, it has its limitations, etc., which we will not worry about right now. Let's just go through the rules. So I want to first tell you the rule. So I want to get 6 individuals in the next generation, and let's say F0 is larger than F1. So F0, the 0 type is fitter than the first type. So what do you think in the next generation? I'm not telling you the rule yet. What do you think the population would look like in the next generation? What's your intuition like? All will be zeros? What do you think? All will be zeros in the next generation? It is fitter, no? Selection of the, what is it? Survival of the fittest. What do you think? See, I said the zeros have higher fitness. Right now, I said just think of colloquial meaning. This is a big muscular guy and that's some weakling, right? So what do you think will happen in the next generation? What kind of particles do you think will be there in the next generation? What's your intuition? Most will be zeros, most or all? No, but what's it? No, see, we have some intuition and then we put in the rule, right? So I'm asking the following. You expect only more zeros because it's fitter, no? It can fight off things and stuff like that, right? Okay. So if that were the case, this would mean just that ones have died off. That means there's no variability in the population. But what did we say? There is variation in the population, right? So stochasticity also creates this kind of variation. It creates both ways, but that's one way of doing it. So now I iterate this population the following way. So I'm telling you how to write the program. So what I want to do is, I want to throw a random number. Okay, so this guy wants to know who is my parent. Okay, so what it does is to throw a random number proportional to the fitness of the parent. Why? Because we said the fitter the parent is, more likely it will be the offspring. So it threw the random number and said this is my parent. And then I'll just copy the type here. Is this clear? So I have to throw a random number to ask who is the parent of this first one. Then let's say this one also threw and then found that this is the parent. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm going too fast. Okay, is this a possibility? Is possible? Yeah, okay, I think I just skipped some too many steps. Okay. Okay, let me just tell you how would I simulate it, and then maybe it will be clearer. Okay, so what I will do is the following. I will throw a random number between 0 and 1. I'll divide this line between 0 and 1 into 6 parts. but not all parts are equal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this part has a length f0. So the probability that this is chosen as a parent is equal to f0 divided by 4f0 plus 2f1. The reason I'm writing this is I want to say that the chance a parent is chosen is proportional to its fitness. The higher the fitness, the chance is chosen to be parent. That's all I want to implement. So that's how I want to implement the last part, the random genetic drift and natural selection. Natural selection says the good one is chosen, but not all the population is becoming zeros. You throw a random variable to find out whether or not you are a parent. And that probability is proportional to the fitness of the parent. That's the rule here. Is this clear? This is going to, I'm going to ask you to simulate it. So if it's not clear, you have to ask me now. Because I do it so many times, so I might not be, be clear about it. Runs, that's what I showed, the runs. So you could have a population like this. Sorry. One, two, three. This is a possible run. That is, this guy produced 2 offspring. This one also produced 2 offspring. This also produced 2 offspring. Make sense or not? Is it possible? Yeah. Then you choose the other one of them. Okay. So I want you to simulate it. It's just when you see the trajectories, it's just easier to understand things. So that's why I want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying here. Is it clear how to do this program? How to write this program? Okay, do it your way. Okay. So all I'm asking you is this. So actually, do it your way. So all I'm saying is I have a population size n, 6 particles, and I want to keep 6 particles only. But whichever becomes the parent depends upon its fitness. Higher the fitness, chances are that it's more likely to be a parent. So I have to fill up these boxes by throwing some random numbers, and this is one such trajectory. Let's see. Can you suggest what is the next generation? What a possible population look like in the next generation? All zeros, all ones, how? How is it going to be? I mean, it's a stochastic process. So anything you say is allowed. But say something so that I know. How does it look like? See, what's the meaning of this bonds? I'm saying that this one produced 2 offspring. This one did not produce anything. This did not produce anything. This produced 2 offspring. This produced 2 offspring. And this one did not produce anything. Right? So in the next generation, what do you think? Something is possible, right? What is possible? Tell me. You just, So, can this produce something? Sure, why not? How many? How many do you want this to have? How many children? 2 children, okay. Okay, this guy, do you want it to produce any children? No, okay. That guy, okay. What about this guy? Do you want him to produce anything? Children? How many? Huh? 2 children, okay. This is like hum do, hamare do. Okay. What about this guy? What do you think? 4 children? 1. Okay, 1 child. Wonderful. And this guy? How many children? Huh? How many children can it have? No, hold on. How many children can this one have? How many children can it have? Can it have 3 children? No. How many? Either 0 or 1, because you want to keep 6, right? So let's say it produced 1, right? And this one didn't produce. So this is one population you got. So it's changing over time. That's what you guys said to me at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Wonderful. Yeah, you're right. Because you're just copying. So this was the reproduction with stochasticity. Okay? So you're choosing a parent with a chance that has a certain fitness. Higher the fitness, higher is the chance. That's all I have implemented here. I think you work it out, you write a program, and then if any questions, just ask me again. So, but this is the sort of thing you can run in the computer. Anything else? Okay? Is this clear? This is a plausible possibility, right? Okay? But this was only the reproduction part. I can now put in mutations. Yeah.
Suppose at first I start with 6 people and
All 6.
speed up the process,
Yeah.
and finally after 2.5 or 6 I get some answer. Then again I will go and start from 6 people, and at 2.5 if I check the answer, that answer is matched with the previous answer or may not match with the previous.
Yeah, it need not match. It could have been the same generation. There's a finite probability for that.
So but then how you can came with some formula or some restriction so that this should be followed, and that is my final answer.
I didn't understand the question.
That two kinds of answer is not matched, right?
Why do we need to match answers? I didn't. Which answers do you want to match?
And suppose I start with first as 6 people,
Hmm.
then up to 3.5, I just order how many, how the fitness are, and of 0 and fitness 1,
Hmm.
how many fitness are there.
Hmm.
Then again next I do the same process.
Hmm.
Again I will observe that how many fitness are there, fitness of 0 and how many fitness of 1 are there. So these two processes doesn't match, right?
I mean, this whole thing is a single process. I'm not sure if I understand you. This whole thing, the whole thing is a process. It's a stochastic trajectory of these 6 particles, in which, let's say, the number of zeros were 4 initially, then they became 4 again, and then they became 5.
Are we looking for any specific answer, or it can be anything?
Yeah, so we will see what we want to measure. I'll come to that. So what do we want to measure? We'll see in a while. I just want you, first of all, because this kind of thing you have never seen before. This kind of simple models, you have not, I don't think you have seen it. So I wanted to spend the time in understanding what is this model, because it's a very basic model. It's like the Ising model of this business. So is this okay or not? Okay? Think about it yourself. I mean, we are here for the whole week, so anytime you can ask me. But Wednesday, I want to see the computer program. Okay? That's the one thing, yeah.
After some time, everything will become 0. How will you be 1?
Yeah, right. So all of them might become 0, or it can also become all ones.
1 is less probability.
Yeah, but there's a non-zero probability for that. So very good. So here's a very good point. So he's saying, I just run. Oh, but by chance I threw those random numbers such that this did not produce anything. 0 children, 0 children, 0, 0, 0, 0. And this guy had all the children. Why not? Certainly possible. There's a small probability, right? But there's a non-zero probability. This is a possibility. Or how about this one? How about this one? Is this possible? all zeros or all ones. So it's a very good point. If I don't have mutations, which I have not put yet, then population becomes of only one type eventually. Okay, so if I run this 100 simulation experiments, I will find that in some experiments, some of them may become all zeros, some of them become all ones. And there's a name for this probability. So you find out how many experiments all have become one divided by the total number of experiments. So that probability is called fixation probability. So I would say one has fixed in the population. This is a very important thing. It's a building block for stochastic model. So that's something I do a lot. I just keep calculating lots of fixation probabilities. Okay. So this is how, if this object you know, fixation probability, which I hope to get some time to explain, this is how this you can use to take care of the stochasticity. So we'll come to that later on. Okay. So this would have been possible if I had no mutations. But let me now introduce mutations. I don't know how I'm doing with time. 30. Okay. Let's now put mutations. So this was only selection and random genetic drift. Selection was the part which says fitter you are, more offspring you have. But it's not like the good guy takes all. You have to throw random numbers, and that's how you have to take a stochasticity into account. Okay, so that's a selection and stochasticity part. Stochastic selection. Okay, but now let me also put mutation. Mutation means 0 can become 1 and 1 can become 0. Again, you throw some number for that. Okay, so now let's say 0 became these zeros, but you say mutation can also occur with some probability. Let's say 0.1. And this can become 1 can become 0 with probability 1.2. So 0 can become 1 with probability 0.1 and remains the same with probability how much? 0 can become 1 with probability 0.1 and 0 remains 0 with probability 0.9, right? Similarly, 1 can become 0 with probability 0.2 and remains the same with probability 0.8. Okay, so 0 became here and I threw the random number and there was a mutation. So from 0 I generated 1. Similarly, maybe here, here and so on. Okay, so I've cooked up a model which incorporates these three basic things. Natural selection in terms of higher fitness producing on an average more offspring. Stochastically, because the better one didn't take all of it, and mutation also, which changes 0 into 1 and 1 into 0. Okay, so this is really the basic model. If it's not clear, just ask me. Let me just wait. So what is it? 34. 1 minute I will give you. You can think about whatever questions you have. Feel free to chat with each other. If it's not clear, just ask me, what did she say, or what was it? Ask with each other. Feel free to chat. I'll just take a pause in one minute.
So, madam, there is no fixed number that how many offsprings it will create. It may create 0 to up to 6.
Yeah. Okay, so any questions? No? Yeah? Sorry? What? This after throwing random numbers. Yeah, according to that probability. So I threw the random number, it happened to be 0.1 between, when I threw the random number, it happened to be between 0 and 0.1. So I said, okay, I can change 0 to 1. Yeah. She was asking how did it become a 1, because I threw a random number and with probability 0.1 it became 0 to 1. Can you? Okay, so here's an important question. He is saying now run this program which has selection, stochasticity and mutations. So can I wind up with all zeros? With all zeros? Okay, so all zeros. Possible? No, I can wind up, but why should I stop there? What will happen in the next generation? Eventually can I have, once I get, if I did not have mutations, I go to all zeros, would the state of the population change? No, right? Zeros will always remain zeros if I don't have mutations. But if I have mutations, yeah, it will keep changing. You'll pass through all zeros, fine, but it'll keep changing. So that there is a equilibrium reached. We'll see if I can get some time. Okay. So we'll skip that right now. Okay, is this okay with everyone? Because if you don't have questions, I have some questions from you. Clear, everybody? Okay. So you have to help me with some stuff here. So I want to ask you the following. So I'll write the question and take 2 minutes and tell me the answer, because this is something you have seen before. That's why I'm asking you this question. Okay? So I've used 0 and 1. Okay. So let 0 be chosen to be a parent with the probability P naught and 1 with probability P1. Okay, so I want to ask, what is the probability that if I had I zeros in T generation, I will have J zeros in the next generation. So the big hint is you have seen this before in your 11th standard, 12th standard, something like that. So the question is, what's the probability that if I had I zeros in generation T, I have population size n, and I had I zeros. I is 0 to n, whatever number. So what's the chance that in the next generation I'll have J zeros? Don't worry about this right now. Forget this guy for a second. I'll say why I wanted to invoke this. So what's the chance? So if zeros are chosen with probability P0 and 1 with probability P1, what's the chance of getting J zeros in the next generation? Does it remind you of something non-evolutionary? There are only two possibilities, right? Zeros and ones. And there's some probability for that. What does it remind you of? Conditional? No, that's conditional. Let's forget it for a second. Binomial, wonderful. Very good. You guys are good. So, binomial distribution, right? So, what's the chance of getting J zeros? It's the same coin tossing problem, right? So, I'm saying there are zeros are chosen with probability P0, heads, and tails is ones. So, what's the chance of getting J heads? It's a binomial distribution. So, what's the binomial distribution? Anybody who hasn't answered any question of mine? People are looking away. What about you? Can you tell me what's the binomial distribution? Huh? Honey, what's the formula? Do you know the formula? Huh? Okay. Tell me. N, choose J, People understand this notation? Sometimes it's not clear to people. Is this okay? N choose J? Okay. What else? You want to tell me? I think you know the answer, right? So tell me the answer. What happens with it? Okay, anybody else? Yeah, go ahead. P naught J, yeah, very good. Yeah, P1 is 1 minus P naught, right? Because either choose 0 or 1. To the power? Wonderful. Very good. Okay? So this is a binomial distribution. Somebody was asking, can I write a formula? Here is your favorite formula. Okay? Okay, so now I erase that bit. I said forget the conditional business, very complicated and all that. But let me bring that in. Okay, so what is this P0? How much is P0? How much is P0? See, in this process, P0 depends, no, on how many zeros I had in the previous generation, right? If I had lots of zeros, there's a large chance of choosing that, right? If there are very few, there will be no chance. So exactly how much is it? Not J, because it's a fitness. So if I had I zeros in the previous generation, so let's write it. P0 is equal to, remember I said it's a proportional to the fitness. So the probability of choosing 0 is F naught and then I zeros. I don't care which one is chosen. So therefore it's enhanced by that. So this is equal to F0I. Do you understand why I'm writing these denominators? Yeah, normalize it. Right? So this is your P0. Okay? So all of you said that you know about coin tossing, right? So how is this different from the coin tossing problem? So I said I want J heads, right? But I said, oh, it depends upon how many heads I had in the previous generation, right? That's what is happening here. This probably depends upon I, the number of zeros I had in the previous generation. So is this different or same as the usual coin tossing problems? Different. So it's very different because it depends upon, it's not a constant. It's changing. These probabilities are changing with time. Okay, so it's a very, so therefore when we write down, some of you are familiar with this called Fokker-Planck equations. When we write down this Fokker-Planck equation, structure comes out to be pretty different from the usual diffusion equation. So this is a very, very important thing to note. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that was one thing. Okay. So therefore, if I want to know about the average of this, I can write, of course. So this was the probability. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So since it's a binomial distribution, what's the mean of a binomial distribution? So I want to know mean J. So that's the average number of zeros in t plus 1. How much is it? N? N J? No. N J is a random variable. N what? P0. P0 being this. Right? So therefore, okay, I can write the fraction of zeros by dividing both sides by n to be the following. So x for fraction So it depends upon this previous iteration. So this equation, which is about a mean, is in physics literature is called a rate equation if I had made a derivative. Okay, so this is a deterministic equation. It does not have any n in it. Okay, it's about fraction, of course. There's no n in it. So I wanted to, so this is let me just come back to this point because I need to explain to you one more thing. So just note it. It's called a deterministic equation. What does it mean? So let me just go one more step and come back. Okay, so mean, fine, whatever. Let's do variance. What's the variance of J? M P naught 1 minus P naught. How much is it? Or therefore variance in frequency right? That's what we saw in Mukund-Stock also. The same stuff. The variance in the frequency is going like P naught into 1 minus P naught divided by n. Right? So the variance is not standard deviation. That's why he was writing 1 by root n. Okay? So I have a stochastic evolution. I wrote an equation for the mean. I wrote an equation for the variance. But now if n goes to infinity, this becomes 0, right? That's what somebody said, delta function, right? Okay. So if I can neglect these fluctuations, which I can do when the population is infinitely large, I am dealing only with a mean. All the other things drop out. So when you work with infinitely large population, then you are dealing with what are called deterministic equations. And that's what this is. Okay? So what I'm saying is, if you had a finite population, you have stochasticity. If the population is infinitely large, you can neglect stochasticity. I mean, there's no stochasticity because variance is going to 0. There's no variation. So the sort of thing that you said, all will become zeros or all will becomes 1, that sort of thing will happen if you evolve that equation. Only the fitter will win. Suppose I did not have mutations. You said to me that if I evolve the Wright-Fisher process, I can get many times lots of zeros, all zeros. I can also get all ones. But if population is infinitely large, the fitter one always wins. So that's the sort of physical difference between stochastic evolution and deterministic one. Is this clear what I said? Let me repeat. I said stochastic case without mutations, you told me that all can become zeros and all can also become ones. But if population is infinitely large, all can only become zeros. You cannot get anything which will become all one. So stochastic evolution is giving you the possibility of a less fit one to also swarm the population. That's possible. Okay? So what's the chance of that, etc. is again comes in this object called fixation probability. So we'll see how things go and I'll describe to you a little later on. Okay, I think okay, at least I want to start a bit about looking backwards in time. So are you all up to it or hungry? Not hungry, right? Okay, so we'll take 10 minutes. At least I want to introduce the question to you. Is this okay? So what is the meaning of n? Meaning of n is about stochasticity, to have the variance in the population. Okay? So this was all I said, Wright-Fisher process, you run forward in time. I give you some generation in today's population, you iterate it. But it looks weird when I say, oh, you give me some sample today and I can tell you by some tests, etc., what happened in the back in time. That looks like, science fiction or something, right? But, it's possible to do it. So I want to introduce this. Okay. So let me draw something. A trajectory from Wright-Fisher process, and I'm going to turn off mutations. All I'm doing is random genetic drift, no mutations, no selection. So the simplest possible model, only stochasticity. Okay, so let me start with this population, say 5, all zeros, let's say, and there's no mutation, right? Okay. So, but they will remain the same, zeros. So in the next generation, however, they'll remain 0, of course. But maybe this had a offspring, these two, this had, and this guy also had, right? Possible? Another generation. Yeah? Okay? So when I'm saying look backward in time, so suppose you give me this sample, these, all these, so today you give me this information, and I want to construct a genealogy. So genealogy, no? Parent, grandparents, hoo-ha, I mean that sort of thing. So that's what I want to do here. So I want to draw the genealogy. Okay. So I want to draw a genealogy of not all 5 of them. Let's say 3 of them. Let's say this guy. So I've chosen for some reason this one, and this one. Okay. So genealogy means go backward in time asking who is your parent. So draw those bonds. This one, okay, and this guy. Let's go one more generation because I want to make a point. Okay, and then this one and this one. So look at the orange structure, the orange lines. So this is the genealogy, a genealogical tree of this sample. Okay, how does it look? So it's looking something like this. Right? Okay, so I want to understand these trees. They have some very nice properties, and the idea here is that I'm giving information only here. I'm not given Wright-Fisher process in the backward in time. I don't know, but I have to make some assumptions. Okay, like I said, there's no selection, no mutation, and if I assume that, what does it tell me about what happened in the past? What can I say? What kind of parameters I can find? So all that I need to explain to you. But this is a tree. Okay, so because we have just only 5 minutes, so I will just ask you one little question and then I'll justify these things later on, just for us to start thinking. So for some reason, I'm going to do a tree, okay, which we'll see later, and I'm given you 3 samples. And the rule is that only 2 of those mergers are allowed. So let me explain. So suppose I give you 3 samples. So this is not Wright-Fisher process. How it's related, I'll do next time, tomorrow. So I'm given 3 samples. These 2 can merge. Okay, sorry. See, these 2 guys merge, right? Backward in time. So that's why it's called coalescence. This is a coalescent event, coalescence. Right? If you go backward in time, things merge. If you go forward in time, they branch out. So that's why it's called coalescent theory. It's a major theory which has 1000 branches in it. Okay, and I'm going to take a specific model and I'll explain to you later on why it's important and all that. So, but let's just do a little fun problem right now. So suppose I give you the rule that only 2 branches can merge. More than 2 branches is not allowed because of some rules. Okay, so I just want you to work out the following. So you have these 3 and you can merge this one and this one. This is a tree, right? But 1 and 2 could have merged. 1 and 3 could have also merged first, right? And then those two merged with this one. This is a genealogical tree. Okay? So I've gone somehow from there to here. Why and all I'll come to later. So, and what other tree is possible? I could have merged first 2 and 3 and 1. So there were how many trees? 3 trees. Okay. So if I had 4 such samples, how many trees are possible? Just work it out for me right now. So this for 3. I just want you to think about what these trees mean, the properties of these trees. So if I had 4 samples, what kind of trees are possible? How many trees are possible? Huh? You have to use pen and paper. You can't just do so quickly. It's a somewhat largish number. So there are 3 trees of this kind. If I had 4 samples, 4 of these things, how many trees are possible? No. No, it's not that simple. Do a little bit more work. It's simple enough, but you have to think a bit. Again, feel free to chat with each other. Okay, let me help you a bit. So these were 4 samples, okay, 4 individuals I have. So what mergers are possible? Condition being only 2 things can merge at the same time, only 2. 3 can't merge together, that's not allowed. So which one would you like to merge first? 1 and 2? Okay, so 1 and 2 merge. Then? No, you're off by a famous factor called 2. Should be 18. Yeah, okay, so tell me, what else is possible? Let's just draw these trees at least roughly. So 1 and 2 merged, and what else is possible? Huh? 3, 4 merged, okay, at a different time. Because I said the rule is that they are not allowed to merge at the same time. And then these 2 merged. And then you have to count these permutations. Okay? So please do it at home. What else is possible? Anything else? So, you can change the labels of 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's one kind of tree, one class of trees. What else is possible? Anything else? You can rotate these labels, permute them and all that. So that's one possibility, right? That will give you, I think, maybe 6. Huh? What else? But I said there are 18 trees. Huh? 1, 2. And then? Very good. Is that what you had in mind? Wonderful. And then 4. Very good. Yeah? And then permutations of this. Okay? So this should give you 6 trees. And this should give you 12 trees. So 18 such trees. So the rule is that these lineages have to coalesce with a rule that only 2 can do at a time. So this kind of merger is not allowed. This is not allowed. Okay? So we'll see tomorrow why is it so and all that. Okay? And why theory I said, because stress in the morning, theory versus model and all. So I'll try to, so it's a good thing that he did that, because I want to explain that using this coalescent business. Okay? Homework. Of course you have to do the simulations that I said to you, right Fisher? Start thinking about it and other things that I said. So also, how about 5? If I give you 5 samples, how many trees are possible? Okay, tell me the answer tomorrow. Okay, so I think I should stop here.